Welcome to episode 2 of this series. In the previous episode, Sade, once a quiet restaurant owner, stood up to Seoul's most feared mafia king, Ga Ki-hoon. What began with defiance became a love story that silenced power, pride, and fear. If you haven't watched episode 1, make sure you do before stepping into the fire and tenderness that follow now. Sparkles, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 2. It was a Thursday night, and Seoul shimmered under soft rain. Neon lights rippled over the glass walls of the hilltop restaurant, where two silhouettes sat across each other, the king and his soon-to-be queen. The world had begun to whisper about them. The Mafia king, who once ruled with fire, was now seen laughing quietly across a candlelit table, and the woman before him, Sade, with her honey-brown skin and calm eyes, had become the city's most watched mystery. Do you know, she teased softly, swirling her wine, half of Seoul now follows your fan page just to see what you wear to dinner. Ga Ki-hoon leaned back, a faint smirk playing on his lips. I only wear the same thing, suits and sin. She laughed, that full, easy sound that made him forget every bullet and deal he had ever made. Sin suits you, Mr. Hoon. He reached across the table, brushing his thumb against her fingers. And grace suits you, Mrs. Hoon-to-be. Her eyes softened at that, the sound of her name next to his still felt unreal. Outside, the city lights glittered like confetti, and for a moment they weren't king and queen of a dangerous empire, just two lovers stealing peace where they could find it. Their nights became a quiet ritual. Sometimes it was a movie at a hidden private theater he rented out entirely for her, where he fell asleep halfway through romantic films but never let go of her hand. Other times, it was a midnight drive through Namsan, music low, her head resting against his shoulder as they spoke about the kind of wedding they wanted. I want something simple, Sade said one night, her voice sleepy. He smiled. You say that now, but when the florists come, you'll pick the most expensive ones. I'll only pick the ones that last longest, she replied, because beauty that fades too fast isn't worth the price. He turned to her, then a look in his eyes that was part wonder, part fear. That's what you think of us. She smiled faintly. No, I think we were expensive to build. Her restaurant reopened 2 weeks later, not as the cozy spot she once managed, but as an elegant fine dining house. New name, Sade Spice, carved in gold above the entrance. The first night, she stood near the open kitchen in a blush silk dress, nerves humming beneath her calm. Cameras flashed, reporters murmured, everyone wanted to see her, the woman who had captured the Mafia king. And then the doors opened. He arrived. Ga Ki-hoon in a tailored ash suit, flanked by quiet guards but walking alone. Conversations stopped. Even the photographers lowered their lenses. He crossed the room with that deliberate calm that carried both danger and devotion, and stopped in front of her. You didn't tell me this was an event, he said quietly. It wasn't supposed to be, she whispered. Then why does it feel like a coronation? His words made her laugh, but her hands trembled slightly as he handed her a bouquet, white orchids. For your empire, he said simply. Later that night, after the crowd dispersed, he stayed to help her close. She wiped down a counter. He leaned against the bar, watching her. You still work like you're broke, he teased. I still work like I'm proud, she corrected, and when she turned, he was already close, his hand catching her wrist, his voice a low murmur against her hair. Sade, he whispered, you ruin me every time I look at you. By the third week, wedding preparations began. The media called it Seoul's wedding of the century. Designers, planners, florists, all fought for the chance to be part of it. Sade didn't like the attention, but she couldn't deny the magic. She tried on gowns beneath the golden light of a boutique, her reflection wrapped in lace and silk. When Beck walked in unexpectedly, even the attendants froze. He stood there, speechless, the man who commanded entire armies reduced to silence by a woman in white. "Say something," she said shyly. He exhaled slowly, voice barely above a whisper. "Now, I understand why angels fall." She turned away, cheeks warm. "You're dramatic." "Only when it comes to you." He walked up to her, resting a hand on her waist. "Let's make this real soon." She met his gaze in the mirror. "Are you in a hurry to own me?" He smiled. "To keep you." They became Seoul's obsession. Their photos, a kiss under cherry blossoms, a stolen laugh at a cafe, her hand brushing his cheek mid-conversation, flooded social media. People called them the unbreakable pair, but not everyone adored them. Somewhere in a penthouse overlooking the same city, another woman watched those same posts, her eyes filled with something darker than envy. She scrolled through every picture, every video clip, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the glass. Then she stopped on one photo, Ga Ki-hoon's hand on Sade's lower back at a gala, eyes only for her, her lips curled. "So you forgot me that easily." She lifted her phone and began typing. That night, Sade sat by her balcony, wrapped in a silk robe, watching the moon over Seoul. Beck was away at a meeting, but his jacket still hung on the chair beside her, a quiet reminder of him. She smiled faintly, opening her phone to scroll through messages. Dozens of tag posts, hashtag the Hun wedding, hashtag Queen Sade, hashtag Love Conquers Fear. Her heart felt full. For the first time, the world wasn't terrifying. It was tender. She picked up her notebook, the same one she had used years ago to write restaurant recipes. On the new page, she wrote, "He taught me that love isn't a weakness. It's an empire of its own, one you protect with your life." Then she closed it, unaware that the next message on her phone, from an unknown account, would soon shake everything. A single notification blinked on her screen. "Do you know your fiancé already has a child?" That night, after the message appeared on her phone, Sade simply set the phone down, exhaled softly, and turned off the lamp. She did not call him. She did not cry. She pulled the blanket around herself, stared at the ceiling for a while, then whispered to the darkness, "I'll ask him in the morning." There was a strange peace in her heart, a kind of quiet faith that refused to panic, because she knew the man she loved, and if the world was going to test that love, she would let it. Outside, rain whispered on the balcony glass. Inside, she fell asleep with his name in her heart. Morning came with chaos. Sade woke to a buzzing phone, dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages. Her screen was filled with one phrase, trending #1, the Mafia King's secret wife. She sat up, heartbeat quickening, and pressed play on one of the videos. A woman's voice, soft but firm, filled the room. "I am Mrs. Ga Ki-hoon. We have a child together. I kept silent because I was afraid. But now that he plans to marry someone else, I can't hide anymore." The video showed blurred photos, a wedding certificate, pictures of a child, and a man's silhouette that resembled Beck's. Sade's breath caught, not because she believed it, but because the world already did. Comments flooded the screen. She should cancel the wedding. Why would a woman like her trust a man like him? He's dangerous, she's blind. Her fingers trembled as she locked her phone. For a moment, she sat still, the air thick with noise she couldn't hear. Then she stood, walked to the mirror, and whispered, "Breathe." When Beck arrived that afternoon, his face was pale beneath calm. He didn't wait for her to speak. "Sade, I swear to you, I have no idea who that woman is." "I know," she said quietly. He blinked. "You know, I know the man I love," she said, voice steady. "And I know the difference between truth and envy." He exhaled, a long, trembling breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Then he walked toward her and pulled her close. "You don't know what that means to me." She smiled faintly against his chest. "Then show me. Let's find the truth together." They went to the police the next morning. The station was quiet, the air sharp with the scent of rain-soaked uniforms and brewed coffee. They filed a report, submitting every screenshot, every fake certificate, every video. Detectives promised to investigate. As they walked out, cameras waited, reporters shouting questions, flashes of light cutting through drizzle. Beck placed a protective arm around her shoulders, leading her to the car. Inside, she sat quietly, staring at the raindrops sliding down the window. "Do you ever regret being who you are?" she asked softly. He turned to her, puzzled. "Power," she whispered. "It keeps people near you, but it also builds walls." He watched her for a moment. "Then stay on the inside of mine." She smiled, small, sad, but real. "I already am." Days turned into weeks. The scandal refused to fade. New rumors appeared. More pictures, more lies. Sometimes, late at night, she felt her faith tremble. She would scroll through the comments, reading the cruel words from strangers who thought they knew her story. Then she would look at his photo, his face calm, steady, unbothered, and her heart would settle again. Because love, she'd learned, was not the absence of doubt. It was choosing someone despite it. The day before the wedding, the phone rang. It was the Seoul Metropolitan Police. They had found her, the woman behind the scandal. Beck and Sade arrived together, hand in hand. In the interrogation room sat a woman in her 30s, her face hidden by long hair, wrists cuffed. She refused to look at Sade. When the officer spoke, his voice was firm but neutral. "She has agreed to confess." The woman finally lifted her head. Her eyes, sharp, painted, and tired, found Beck first. "We met years ago," she said quietly. "One night. I thought it meant something, but you never called again." Beck's jaw tightened. He didn't deny it. She continued, voice trembling with anger and pride. "You were untouchable. Everyone feared you. And then one day I saw the news. You were marrying her." Her eyes flicked toward Sade. "What does she have that I don't?" Sade said nothing. Her calm unnerved the woman more than any insult could. "So I made sure the world would doubt you," the woman continued. "I paid people, created documents, posted the videos. I wanted your name destroyed before the wedding." Silence filled the room. Even the officers looked uncomfortable. Then Beck stood, his voice low. "You didn't destroy us. You only proved what kind of love survives lies." The officer spoke again. "She will record an apology and public retraction." Sade turned to the woman one last time. "I hope you heal from whatever made you think this was love." The next morning, their wedding day, dawned soft and gold. Beck woke before her, lying still beside her, watching the way sunlight traced her brown skin. Her lashes fluttered open, and she smiled sleepily. "You're staring." "I'm memorizing," he said. She laughed softly, pulling him closer. "You're supposed to be getting ready." "I am," he murmured against her lips. "For a lifetime." They kissed, slow, unhurried, full of promise. Outside, the city was already buzzing, but for a few minutes, time paused for them. When she finally rose, he whispered, "You look like forever." And she whispered back, "Then don't ever let go." The wedding was everything Seoul had imagined, and nothing it expected. The cathedral shimmered with light, flowers cascading down white marble steps. Reporters lined the streets, but inside it was only them. Sade, in a gown of soft ivory lace, her hair wrapped in gold-threaded silk, walked down the aisle to gentle music. Beck waited at the altar, his usually sharp eyes softened with awe. When their eyes met, everything else disappeared. The whispers, the cameras, the past. He mouthed, "You're mine." She smiled, "Only because I choose to be." Vows followed, quiet, heartfelt, unpolished, but perfect. "I don't promise you peace," he said, "but I promise you my truth. I don't promise to never fear, She replied, "But I promise to never run." When he kissed her, the crowd erupted, flashes of light, applause, and tears. But they didn't hear it, because love had always been their only audience. Days later, the world watched their honeymoon photos, not with mockery, but with awe. The couple who had survived scandal now glowed with something softer than victory: peace. They walked hand in hand along the beaches of Santorini, laughter chasing the wind. Her sundress danced around her knees. His shirt was half open, the king unarmed, undone. One evening, as the sun melted into the sea, Sade rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever think about how close we came to losing this?" He smiled faintly. "I think about how lucky I am that we didn't." She looked up at him. "You taught me something, Beck." "What?" "That love doesn't need to prove itself to the world, only to the one who believes in it." He touched her cheek gently. "Then believe in me forever." She smiled. "Forever is already happening." That night, beneath foreign stars, she wrote again in her diary, the same one where she once wrote recipes. "Love, I've learned, isn't about who the world believes we are. It's about who we become when the world stops watching. And if faith had a face, it would look like his tired, scarred, and smiling at me in the dark." She closed the book, placed it beside the bed, and turned toward him. Beck was already watching her, eyes soft. "What are you thinking?" he asked. She smiled. "That we made it." He reached for her hand, kissed her palm, and whispered, "No, Sade-hoon, we're just beginning." Thank you for watching the story of Beck and Sade. Sparkling heart through love, trust, and courage. They proved that even in a world of chaos, two hearts can remain unbreakable. We hope their story touched your heart as deeply as it touched ours. Sparkling heart, if you enjoyed this series, don't forget to like, comment, and share, because love stories like this deserve to be remembered forever.